Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be doing a test of the exposure lock mode on the Mobius Mini and just flying it here on my Airblade X130. Um, this day was overcast, actually pretty cloudy and quite dark. And for this first flight I actually did the exposure lock right before I took off, and it's not quite this dark that day, but it was pretty dark that day. So you do get some pretty good detail in the ground, and the sky isn't blown out as much. But this was definitely quite a bit darker than what it actually was. I think it was about to rain. But you can see as I'm flying around here, the exposure is locked. It doesn't change at all whether I'm looking at the sun or flying away from the sun. But what is interesting is that when I did set the exposure lock, I was kind of facing the sun. I pointed it towards the horizon, so I may have caught a little bit too much of the sky, which is maybe why it's a little bit underexposed here. You can see here the trees, the palm trees over there are completely dark, and that's possibly because I set the exposure when I was looking at the sun. Now in the second flight here, I did not use the exposure lock. I just used the automatic settings, and it's actually brighter than what it seemed like that day. But the colors from the sky look really good. The ground is much lighter than obviously in the first flight where I had the exposure lock. It wasn't quite this bright, but you can see here that the exposure is changing based on the lighting conditions. And you see I'm pointing into the sun there, and the trees don't go totally dark, but they do go pretty dark, and a little bit more detail shows up in the automatic settings versus the lock settings. And I actually, when I think about it, I actually prefer this over the exposure lock mode. I think there might be certain situations where you would want to use the exposure lock mode, but I think that in probably a lot of the cases you're probably going to want to just use the automatic mode. I think the colors, the saturation, the detail, everything seems to look a lot better, especially as the lighting condition changes from the direction you're going into the sun and away from the sun. Especially this time of year when the sun is very low in the horizon, um, lighting conditions aren't very good overall. And I think that this does a better job than locking the exposure. I think if you were in perhaps summertime conditions where the light is directly overhead and it's not going to change that much, maybe that would be better and you get more consistency. Obviously, it would be a lot more consistent than this. But I think that for these type of lighting conditions where the sun is very low in the horizon, this is probably going to be a little better. Anyway, I hope this helps you guys out. I encourage you guys to play around the settings to find what works best for you and the places you fly at. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video.